Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your host Brian, and welcome back to another Q&A episode. I do have to apologize. I know it's been a couple weeks since I released my second episode. And first off, I actually went on vacation in Nashville, which was pretty fun. But I ended up paying for it after I came back with COVID, unfortunately. So that was pretty much fun. I'm still actually kind of recuperating from it, but I am feeling a lot better right now. And I just want to kind of give you guys a little bit of news before we jump right into day 2 of our trip and jump into the questions right after that. But regardless, I am meant to release my Halloween live stream during Halloween weekend. And whatever happened there, I don't know. So I'm still trying to work on that too. I'm hoping it doesn't come to worse. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to just doing standard drum covers. Just release those on a weekly basis. I'll have to see what happens. But for now, I'm just kind of looking into that too. I know I kind of mentioned about Nashville, so as we keep progressing through all these episodes, I'm going to make sure I talk about my Nashville trip later on after I finish my Canyonlands trip out to Arizona. So that's about it for news. Other than that, make sure you stay on top of all podcast episodes I'm going to release. Stay tuned for that. All right, so we jump into day 2 of our trip. And after the little fiasco we had in Detroit and everything, and trying to get out to Phoenix, I actually forgot to mention in my last episode where our Four Seasons hotel was, and it was actually in Scottsdale. So I do apologize for that. So we wake up in Scottsdale and everything, have a nice good breakfast, saying, get out on 179 and head to Sedona. And I've actually interviewed Jeff Jansen already, and he told me that Sedona is what he claimed God's backyard. And actually, he's not wrong either. I'll have to admit that. And he's actually lived in Arizona for a good while. And I actually took some killer footage and everything. Just the rocks and everything. I can't even try to say what the names are and everything, so I'm real sorry. But I mean, the whole scenery, it was just amazing too. It was like being in another world. I would say the one downside was, first off, it actually rained a little bit later, and that was actually just before we were getting ready to leave. But the other thing was, I was actually trying to make a vlog out of it too. So I was kind of a little obsessed with that, trying to find any sort of music. So I was hoping to maybe find a live band playing out there. And unfortunately, I didn't really find much. So my videos kind of ended up dry. And so I kind of abandoned that project. But regardless, just being able to get the nice little sightseeing, oh, it was amazing too. I would go back, but hopefully with better plan next time. But after Sedona, I actually drove the whole way up to the Grand Canyon, where actually, me and my dad, we actually walked along the rim. And that was the first time I actually been at the Grand Canyon. My dad, he was actually there a good while back. That was way back in the 70s. Regardless, it was beautiful, and I have to admit, I can't tell you how many pictures I took, just in random spots here and there. It was just that beautiful. I was trying to make sure to get the sun, and I had to say that was very beautiful too. There was actually a mule deer that it was a female, and she was actually not too far from one of the trails. So I had to admit that picture was actually pretty golden there too. And it felt like we had walked along that rim pretty much forever, but it was funny when we came around the bend and there was our hotel and everything right there. So we had the El Tovar later that night, and actually I just remembered this. There was a water shortage. That's what it was. It was a water shortage. So they didn't have their typical China plates. So they had to use the plastic plates. And me and my dad, we got steaks and everything. It was all mushed together and everything too. So that was definitely a funny moment, but you can understand. I guess they had to make do with what they had. So nonetheless, it was very beautiful and everything. Both at Sedona and the Grand Canyon too. I have to admit, God's backyard, as Jeff said. Definitely, 100%. Then we spend the night there, and then we get ready for day number 3, which I'll get to in my next episode. And so, let's jump right into the questions. So first question comes from Continuum Drums, aka Lutz. Lutz and me, we actually got a nice little drum collaboration going on right now, so I plan to release that on Friday, so I won't spoil anything just yet, so stay tuned, folks. Lutz's question is, how long have you been playing drums, and do you have a teacher to help you with your practice? So Lutz, a lot of this kind of ties into Brian's questions that he asked me on my last episode. So to answer the first part, I've been playing drums a little over a decade right about now. And the story goes that I started with rock bands, first started doing the guitar and everything else, and then I eventually jumped on drums Did easy, medium, hard, expert, you name it there. And then I just became so obsessed with it because one, it was a good workout too, but it also taught me at least some of the basic components about drumming as well. So when my parents realized that this wasn't a fad going on, they asked like, hey, do you want your own drum set? And I was like, sure, I would actually like that. And obviously, if you know how the story goes, because I mentioned it a good number of times in my interviews and everyone else that I've talked with, the story goes that instead of getting the acoustic sets because of like how easy sound goes through these walls, we decided to get the electric drum set, and I've just been rolling with it ever since. In terms of your second point, do you have a teacher to help with your practice? I've actually never had a teacher, believe it or not. I've actually interacted with other drummers too, but I never really considered actually having a drum teacher, to be honest. I don't know why, and my parents have actually recommended it to me, but I think time's just so constrained too, because working 2 jobs and everything else, you could see how tight it is just trying to make sure you have plenty of time to like try to go out there and practice and everything too. So I don't know. It might be something I do in 2023. Maybe a nice little New Year's resolution to help improve on skills. I know I could definitely use jazz and blues. That'd be nice. So I'll consider it, but I hope that answers your question there, Let's. So I know it's not the greatest, but there we go. Next question is from Rick Griffin. So Rick, he actually had 2 questions after I did my channel update video, and then he actually gave me 2 questions, and I answered one already, so here's number 2. Have there been any songs that you tried to learn and just gave up on or postponed until later? Believe it or not, Rick, the first one that always came to mind was actually Pull Me Under. I know we talked about that during our podcast interview. And honestly, that one was definitely one of the more harder ones I had to play. So, especially with like trying to do a drum collaboration and also doing it solo as well. So, I have to admit, there were times it got frustrating and I just had to like back away from it because I was not in the right frame of mind. Technically, I would say I postponed it until later, and then afterwards I was able to come back, practice it, get through it, and then when it finally came time, I was finally happy with how everything turned out. So Pull Me Under, and then some of the metal ones I've kind of dug big into. I never really considered doing like drum covers on them just yet, but I know Morbid Angel was a couple of tough ones too, and especially if you know how fast Morbid Angel plays, especially drummer Pete Sandoval, who's one of my big influences, you can definitely, you see what I mean too. It's really tricky. It's extremely fast. It's very tough. It's definitely one of the ones you have to like kind of step away from at times. It's good to like get a nice workout and everything, but you gotta know like how the timing goes, how fast you need to play and stuff like that. So that's how it goes. So thank you for your question there, Rick. Hope that answers it. Third question comes from Rich Raw Dog Drums. I didn't forget your question there, Rich. I know you actually gave it to me twice, so I want to make sure I get it this time. So, Rich, your question was, have you ever considered getting an acoustic kit and playing in a metal band? Believe it or not, I've actually had considered playing in a metal band, and that band mix, that's what it was. I was trying to remember what the website was called, but I actually had considered trying to play in a metal band, and this actually ties into that cover band I was trying to get into, where we were doing like the 90s alternative music. And getting the acoustic kit, it would be something, but the problem is I'm actually really tight on space too. It's not good living with the parents and everything. Considering getting an acoustic kit, I don't know, because right now we're pretty tight on space, to be honest. And as much as I really would like to have it, I don't think, and this is something I've actually mentioned a couple times, because sound travels real easily through these walls and everything too. And I know I can't mention them a number of times, but I'm sorry. But to be perfectly honest, I would consider it, but only if I get my own crib eventually. So it would be something to consider down the road. But definitely playing in a metal band, that actually would be a dream come true. I'm not gonna lie, that would be a dream come true, to be honest. Even if it was just a band that's just doing it for fun too. So I hope that answers your question there, Rich. So next question is Alice. Alice actually had a 2-parter on that channel update video I had. So this one's number 2 right here. Do you have any practicing tips for drumming? I would say I'm not the greatest at this, Alice, but I'm just going to go ahead and try to give you my best advice possible. But the first one that kind of came to mind was get comfortable. And what I mean by that is make sure you're good in terms of position, in terms of like how you're sitting up and everything else, as well as reach. So make sure everything is in a good reach, whether you're playing cross-handed or open-handed. You pretty much want to be comfortable. So that's the best sort of advice I can give you right there. Other ones would be make sure you're in the right state of mind. I know people have said like they've gone in and they find drums therapeutic after like a long stressful day and stuff like that. I would say there's been times I have walked in and I've walked out of there kind of a little frustrated at times because I probably screwed up. I probably lost the handle on my drumsticks and stuff like that. So I can tell you this much, as therapeutic as they can be at times, it's sometimes you just want to make sure you're in the right state of mind so you're not like losing temper and stuff like that. So it's a frame of mind. And I think the last thing was, it's good to know your limitations, but don't be afraid to ever branch out and just try something new. So trying something like jazz, blues. I know I mentioned the metal when we were talking in our podcast interview too. So I know I tried to like branch out at times. And the thing is, you gotta also make sure that you're in the mood for it too. So it's tough, I'm not gonna lie, but sometimes you just gotta force yourself to say like, I gotta know this sort of things because it's something you can incorporate later on down the road. Maybe it's something that can help you expand your horizons, so to speak. You're able then to just like know how to like play jazz maybe at certain points, or maybe it's something that helps with the play style. So then it's like, hey, that's new. And people then dig that kind of sound too. So thanks for your question there, Alice. I hope that answers it. And the last question is from Drum Addict, aka Eric. Eric, it's been a while since we talked there, bud, and we have yet to actually do a collaboration, so I would love to do one with you, bud. So let me know in the comments if you're interested in one. Eric's question is, what would your dream drum kit consist of? That's a tough one because, first off, I don't even know if I want to get rid of Roland, to be honest. I know it's something I probably want to keep, and I know I mentioned it a couple times when I talked about using the electric kit as like an extension for like percussion and stuff like that. That would be something I would consider doing if I wanted to like get maybe say a Thomas head, because I know Thomas have done real well. I know Stamatis, he's rolled with Thomas for a good while and his drum kit sounds amazing. It's really tough because I don't know what my dream drum kit would be, but somehow I feel like being symmetrical, if we're sticking with acoustic kits, I feel like having a symmetrical sort of kit with like an equal number of crashes. I know China's, I definitely would roll with a double bass because you guys know me as the metalhead and everything. Snare would be in the middle. Maybe try to separate out the toms and everything. Make sure it's all balanced and everything. So I think that'd be the rough draft to say what my dream drum kit would be. But unfortunately, I know it's really tough too because there is just so much components that go into a drum set. So that'd be the best sort of answer I can give you there, Eric. So I hope that answers your question. And so that wraps up another episode of the Q&A. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and everything. Please leave some questions down there in the comments below so I can answer them on the next one. Don't be afraid. In fact, it doesn't even have to be drum related. Just talk about anything. I mean, talk about a favorite TV show. Make them fun. I mean, I want to talk with you people. We gotta definitely talk. I want to communicate with you guys too. So make sure, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you tune in for my next Q&A video. And I hope to see you guys there and everything too. So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe. Stay tuned, y'all.